Hello, hello, hello. This is Farewell. Welcome back to Faenura Park. And today it is episode 3 and we're building a coaster. Yay! Finally, the first coaster, a Eurofighter. It's one of my favorite types of coasters to build. I don't know why, they just feel nice to build. It's a bit of a custom coaster, but we'll get to that later. If you like coasters, if you like Planet Coaster 2, please leave a like on the video and subscribe. And we're gonna get into this episode of Planet Coaster 2 and building the Eurofighter. There it is, as you can see, and here I am moving it a little bit to fit it more into the area. I want to build an abbey around this coaster. And there's of course another story to go with this coaster. And I'll tell you the story while you can see me fumbling around with pathing. I'm still getting used to the pathing in the game. But as I said in the last episode, there's a baron that petrifies people in the mansion next to the coaster. This petrification, he has to learn that from somewhere. And that's where the coaster comes in and the story behind the Abbey. Because the Abbey is haunted by a Medusa. And so the coaster is born called Medusa's Vengeance. And theming the coaster around an old Abbey. And the inside of the queue is going to be themed towards the Medusa. It's gonna be an epic episode. We're gonna skip a lot of build parts because it's a big build. It took me about 10 to 11 hours to build this. So we're gonna be skipping a few things. You'll see me moving around the queue like I'm doing now a few times. This is not the way it's going to stay. As you can see, I'm already doing queue stuff. But you'll see that during the episode change. But get ready, it's an amazing episode, and I think this is one of my best builds I've done up until now, so let's have some fun. What I mostly wanted to do from the start is getting a layout for the Abbey first, and that helped me a lot. As you can see, here's the Abbey, just only the front and a shop in there, because we want people to buy those ride photos when they come out. I don't have ride photos, of course, but you know what I mean. There's a Head Fantastic shop in there, and there's going to be a souvenir shop next to the coaster. I'm trying to do all the layout for this building build it first, and I had some reference pictures as well from a French abbey, so I could actually build out what I wanted to build. It's very Efteling inspired again, of course, and you'll see in a moment where we're gonna start up with the building. Here you can also see how the figuring out the layout in advance is already changing the way I'm doing the pathing. Getting a little bit of a cattle pen in there, here and there, just for when it's busy days in the park. It seems logical. This coaster seems like a coaster that will attract a lot of people. Now here I am starting to work on the exterior after I had those plans and getting all that plaster in and working on the shop. I think I wanted to get the shop out of the way. I'm not an interior builder guy. Building shops, I don't really like it. But I did want to build an interior and a shop. I like the results. I don't like the building. That's kind of what I'm doing. And here, this is going to be a theme of the episode. I'm already figuring out the decals. What I want to use and what I don't want to use. The outside of this building is gonna change a lot. I had a problem halfway that I thought it was looking a little bit flat, even though I was trying to get raised edges and different edges, and just didn't work. And after watching a video from another builder, something suddenly clicked, and I started using the decals a lot more. And like I said, it clicked, and that's when the whole build came alive. And I know I talk a lot about how a building comes to life, but believe me, this building came alive and it worked. And yeah, this is that design process I always talk about, that I slowly but surely want to work everything out, and I adjust while building. And for sure that really happened on this build. So let's look a bit further on how everything is developing. After getting roughly the outside of the shop done, I decided to do the interior. I went for different options for the different rooms of the Abbey, but this interior I wanted to get a roof on top that had this beam structure. And I hope you guys don't get too attached to those windows I have in the area. Looking at the Abbey from outside while I was building, those windows stood too much out for me. You can't turn off the lights. That was the biggest problem. I couldn't turn off the lights. So I replaced them with another window that far more gave that old Abbey feel. I think that building this, I wanted that ruined Abbey feel, and at the start it just looked too much like an older Abbey, but still a lived-in, maintained Abbey, and that was not the vibe I wanted to go for. So, like I said, don't get too used to those windows, they're gonna go away. But here's my shop I'm building. Little shop with a photo booth. We can't upload custom media just yet, but they promised us it's coming. So I'm already placing in screens for when it works and I can get some custom media in there. Also working with these decals to make the walls look nicer, more lived in, fitting for the theme, and then getting that more modern wood for that shop feel. It's a bit of a juxtaposition like I'm doing in the zoo, of modern meets old. And of course this is a modern building. It's just themed all the way through and through because it's a high budget park. But yeah, we're slowly building the shop up. So I made these shelves and I started stocking the shelves with all kinds of stuff I could find in the pieces that we now have. I found these wall pieces that are decoration, but if I made them really small, they look like something you would give a kid. And that's how I stocked the shelves. I also used the inflatables, made them really small, just to get some merch on the shelves. I know it doesn't make sense, but you know, we have to work without the TMTK, and this is the way I try to figure, at least to give the souvenir shop a bit of merch in there, different merch, just to get the shelf stocked. And nobody's gonna look at the giant lollipop and think, oh, that shouldn't be there. I hope. Don't say it. Not in the comments. I also put in a few of those posters just to decorate the walls a little bit. Again, I like the fact that it's not fitting with the theming. I kind of sometimes, you know, they do that in those parks. I used the backside of the air conditioner 2 times to make a printer of some sorts in the corner, just to fill up the store a little bit. It's a bit of a big area, and of course our employee needs to get out one way or another instead of jumping over the desks like they always do. So there's a door that leads into the other area, and then he can just walk outside, which I think is way more fitting than jumping over the desk. But I think the time that we are gonna get people using the store in a normal way for Planet Coaster. It's something for Planet Coaster 3, if they're hearing me. But if Planet Coaster 1 and 2 are to believe, we have to wait about 8 to 9 years before that one comes out. Of course, the Abbey needs doors, so I'm building doors. Big wooden doors to fit with the Abbey. Again, the Abbey still looks a bit too new, but that's gonna change quickly. But with building those doors and getting a roof on top, the shop was already kinda done. Liking the way it looks and the way it feels. Now the challenge with this build, I think as well, is that it had to be obvious that these doors with the shop are the exit. I do think with how the rest of the build goes, that it's obvious that you need to go through the garden to get through to the coaster. But we'll see that in a bit. Time to build a few trims on top of the roof. And like I said, getting that front entrance ready. But again, with those lights behind those windows, the Abbey looks way too new. Here I'm also trying out the gunk, I think it's called. The gunk decal. I don't like it. I want it to be dark, and it isn't. It has this light edge around it that I couldn't change. So the gunk will disappear, but I found a good alternative. We'll talk about it in a moment. But as you can see, I'm also working now on the side building, getting the shape of that in there and trying to figure out how this building looks. And like I said, way too new, but wait just a minute and you'll see what is going to happen. From this point on, the layout of the pathing has changed a little bit again. When people are gonna get into the little building next to the shop, they're not gonna leave the Abbey until they're on the coaster. So this little area will lead into the bigger area where the kettle pan is. And here I'm just slowly doing some railing on the path. I enjoy custom railing, even though it's just the fences, more than putting in the standard fencing that comes with the path. Now I'm finishing up the wall here from the little house. I can tell you that will not, at least not will stay the same. It will change a lot later on in the video. Here you can already see I've changed the roofs into a dark color. These two-tone roofs are perfect for that. Immediately the roof looked weathered and older, and that's exactly what I wanted. I decided to put the Medusa head on the top of this roof, but it was too much like in your face. There was what I was saying about not wanting this to be the entrance, and that kind of gave a hint that that would be the entrance. So I didn't want that. I moved it towards the bigger building, and I think that fitted way better. And here I'm rummaging about with some decals and trying to figure out how to make this building look older. Because at that point I was not convinced that it's working. But what does work to make buildings older, and you see that happening here, is when pieces are broken and pieces are broken off and not correct anymore. So now you can see me making the entrance into that building, and it's going to be a broken wall. Maybe something happened there with the Medusa. Maybe she had a fight or something, And I'm slowly working out how to make everything look older and more weathered. But the big change is gonna come still. One neat trick I found were the ruin pieces. They color the same as the plaster, so when I use them and I immerse them into the walls, you get this broken brick vibe, and it works really better. The ruin pieces color really well with the plaster, and I have to say a lot of the colors in Planet Coasters keep true whatever item you take, so they're more the same. Instead of like in Planet Coaster 1 that you had two items, you gave them the same color but you had different tints and different hues. That's still sometimes, but a lot less in the pieces we now have, and I hope they keep that up because I kind of really like the way they are doing that. And that's an improvement I don't think a lot of people have talked about. And here I'm starting to use different windows for the Abbey. And they, because of they are dark and not lit up, make the Abbey look way more desolate and unkempt, unloved. And that's exactly the vibe I wanted. The lights behind those windows make it feel way too alive. And I'm really happy that I'm putting in these windows, and it changed the whole look of the Abbey. A big game changer for the Abbey were the damage decals, and especially the corner decals, and applying them to all the surfaces. It's a bit of a tedious job, but the difference it made was enormous. You can see how the windows and the corners of the windows and the corners of this doorway are now starting to look really weathered, and this whole vibe of this house Abbey part is now 100% changing. As you can see, I'm redoing the pathing again, this time in the bigger part of the Abbey, when you get beside the part where you come into the Abbey. This is the next area, and this took me quite some time, especially the pathing. Like I said, me and the pathing tool are not friends yet. Will probably be in the future, but it took me a long time. But I wanted a bit of a kettle pan in this area. This was the perfect area for that. We'll provide some entertainment over to the sides. Believe me, it will get there eventually. And this area started working. You can also see that I already put in walls. And slowly I'm building up that bigger area. And here you can see from the side how everything is turning out. You can now really see the ruined doorway where people get in and how the kettle pan works. And it was raining. It is raining for far too long. I can't wait for the update where they put in the weather manipulation option. Like we have in Zoo. I don't understand why we didn't have that directly. But that's something else. Okay, now I started working on the outside, and I decided to use these Viking walls as a bit of a trim for a few of the walls, just to get something different. And when I'm copying those over, they look like those rougher stone that you use to decorate. In France, you see that sometimes in Belgium as well. Some of these abbeys have that rougher stone. Now the inside, and I'll I'll be honest here. I did not realize until I had all the walls up that they were slightly, and then I mean really slightly, crooked. And in the end, that's giving me a lot of headaches. But I was so deep already in this build. I mean, I was already 8-9 hours into this build, that I took it and I was like, I'm gonna leave it. You don't really see it from when you're on the coaster. You don't see it from the park. The front looks great. I kept it in. So it looks a bit wonky on the back side. There's trees in front of it. There's a coaster in front of it. I left it that way. Because, as you can see, the front of the Abbey is starting to develop really, really well. It was also time to look at the outside queue. Creosote bushes, I love creosote bushes. I use them a lot to represent dead bushes because they just work so well for that, and they fit a desolate build like this very much. And I'm starting to work at the entrance of this Abbey, and again it's going to be a bit of a destroyed wall gate. Again, something is gonna change around. I'm figuring out the shape and I'm figuring out the way it's gonna look. But in the end, I think it looks pretty good. And here is a nice in-between shot of the Abbey. As you can see, I've already been working on the tower. And everything together, the Abbey looks ominous and broken and dark, and I'm really enjoying it. The decal pieces, especially on the front gate, look really, really good. You can also see I haven't applied them yet to the back of the house, which looks way more sterile. And we'll get there in a moment. Again, doing some garden work and using the scenery brush for the second time in my life. Just to get everything working slowly. And, you know, I just want woods around it. It's like in the Efteling, they use a lot of woods and trees to give everything a nice vibe. And that's exactly what I'm doing here as well. I want the garden to look a bit desolate. Again, unkempt. And I decided to not use fencing on the outside of the path. There's a ride in Efteling called Fabula, which also doesn't have fencing. It just has shrubbery and trees to guide you while you're on the path, and they assume you stay on the path. Most people just do, because they are good people. Also started working on the back side of the coaster and getting all the insides of the Abbey working. I just went for this gravel underneath the coaster vibe. The gravel paintbrush is a godsend. Saves a lot of pieces, and just wanted something that would make sense for a coaster to stay in. An area where it makes sense for the coaster to stay in. If you look in the Efteling at Flying Dutchman, it's just going over this area that has grass and dirt and a few trees, and that's where the inspiration for this area came from as well. And also, I'm now doing the rest of the queue on the inside. The tedious work of doing the rest of the interior work. And like I said at the start, I'm not an interior guy. I find it tedious, but necessary. So I did my best to make this as nice as possible. To give the queue some action, I put in the Medusa animatronic, and you can watch her while you're standing in line. This is at the Kettle Pen in the bigger building. And again, using those ruin pieces and a few creosote bushes to make everything look older. It works really well. I also put a ceiling in this area and in the station to make it fit better. The big open space didn't make much sense, and getting the ceiling also means that upstairs you can put electronics and stuff and hide them from the guests. The other side of the area also got a Medusa statue, and here I'm lighting everything up. I'm using spotlights again to light up the scenes, and I'm just hiding them behind the queue fencing there. Again, I'm trying to keep it realistic. And here also I aim the spotlight from underneath the Medusa so she looks more threatening. Light from underneath looks more threatening. Like when you're at the campfire, you put the flashlight under your face when you tell a scary story. That's the idea I went for here. Also doing some lighting work. Couldn't figure out where that white light was coming from. Then I figured it was the stuff I put on the shelves that was emitting light. So I got it out there now. Back to the front gate, it needed more. It was a bit flat, so I decided to get those outer trim pieces that I also had on the Abbey and put them also on the gate, which makes it feel way more connected to the rest of the build instead of separate, because it has the same build style, which worked perfectly well. And I decided to have like a little roof on top of our gate. These roof tiles I put in to make a roof here. These roof tiles are marketplace pieces. It's cloth that I made brown, but actually they work really well as these roof tiles. And there's the gate nearly done with the sign Medusa's Vengeance. Loving these loose letters that you can use, because it changes everything up. And now I'm working towards getting shrubbery in this area to complete the path. And here, you know, you're not gonna walk through the shrubbery to cut the line if it's high enough and thick enough. And that's kind of the way they do it also in the Efteling. So, and it gives you a way more open feeling when you're walking there instead of being fenced off. And for this garden area, that fits really well. Inside, different story. When it's a cattle pen, different story. But for here, it worked well. And now I'm finishing up the gate, at least the other side of the gate, to have it less flat on this side as well. And there we go. That is our gate now done. That left the station and the tower, the last pieces to be done interior wise. So I started working on the station. I kept it really simple. It didn't need too much with all the pre-show in the area before that. You just wanted to be the area where the people stand in the last time and they just wait in anticipation to get on the coaster, and that's kind of what I'm going for here. Not too much decoration, more the business side of the coaster, so to say. Of course I use all the same fencing and everything, but not too much. You also don't want people to go from the exit and linger there because it's so pretty, or they want to see the animatronics. You want them to go through the shop and go outside or buy stuff, of course. Like I said, I don't always like to do interiors, So I usually go back and forth between doing interiors and doing something else. And I eventually decided to do the tower and start working on that. Now the tower I also had a bit of a back and forth with what I wanted to do and not. Eventually I went for the top broken off entirely, so you can see the coaster come out of the tower and topple over into that holding section before it goes down. And here I'm working out the, so to say, destruction of the tower. Back to doing some station interior, putting in beams, get a bit more wood in there to decorate everything a bit better. Don't want it to be too bland, of course. So yeah, of course we also need baggage holds, so I'm putting those in right here. I'm using just the chests, 2 ones, because we have got 2 trains running, so one will open when the other train is going. Don't have, I could have made my own chests, but I think this is more than enough to figure out what needs to be done. I didn't want to place them on the other side of the station because people exit on the same side. But what I did do on the other side is getting a bit of electronics in there and a release button there to at least have people have the idea that there's people working there, and I think it's a nice little touch. It's nothing too much on the other side of the station, but you know, the worker needs to work, walk up and down, help people into the coaster. I decided to put in a few fences, so the suggestion that people have to go there is taken out. You always have those people that get lost when they try to get out of a roller coaster and don't know exactly where the exit is, and that's my solution to it. Don't know if it's the perfect solution, but you know, it works, and when it works, it works. Also, again, trying to get the decoration with the decals in to make the station look way older. And by this time I'm really just finishing up all the little bits and pieces of the whole coaster station, the big ass Abbey. This side piece also needed some decorations, but it's mostly gonna get covered by trees, and that's what I always wanted, because it gives a separation between the mansion and the Abbey, but keeps them in the same area. And also the mansion, this side of the mansion, the wall, is very, very plain. And I did it on purpose. We don't want to decorate stuff that people can't see, because that's a waste of money. So I decided that I really wanted to fill this area up with trees, and have a suggestion that there could be decoration, but not really. Because we want to spend our cash wisely, even though we're playing on a sandbox. But you know, a real park would figure this out. And there's the trees in there, just covering up that area, and you can see from here it's really well covered. I'm procrastinating the backside of the coaster because I'm not sure what to do. I've done so much detailing on the front that the backside is a bit overwhelming to take part in as well. But I figure, like I said, with building what they see and building saving money, that this side might not be as well seen as the other side. You can only see it from the coaster, and then you go by in a flash. So I decided to do not too much theming on the backside and let nature do the most of the work for me. And I'm glad I did, because I could have spent probably another 5-6 hours just doing that, and that was not the plan for this. No, I think for this coaster it was fine to have a more bit of a more plain backside. And here I'm filling in that backside. I do a little bit more detailing behind the trees, but I use the trees as a bit of a cover for the back area, and started working on the tower in the backside as well. As you can see, I cut down the tower now, so you can see the coaster coming out from that. Especially from the square, you now can see the coaster really nicely coming out of the tower and going into that hold section before the dive. And I'm actually quite happy with how that looked. Of course, I do a bit more detailing. As you can see, I'm putting in the trims now to make it all look a bit better on the tower as well. But not too much again, because this side people will hardly notice. The only people that can see it are on the coaster. Eventually I turned the coaster green because I think it fitted way more nicely with the area, and put in way more forest, and kept an area open for some backstaging. How that backstaging is connected to the park, I haven't completely figured out. But what I did figure out was how to make a switch track for the coaster, where it can be switched towards a maintenance building that I'll be building in a moment. I do a little bit of work on the maintenance area of this coaster. It's nothing too complicated. It's very simple. It's just sitting in bare land at the moment. I need to figure out the logistics of all the backstaging in a later episode. So I just build it, so it's there, and I know where the backstaging is gonna be, but I just need to figure out how it's going to work. Now the only thing that's really hard is getting the sun to shine on the front side of the building. It does make sense that a dark place like this stays in the shade, but basically that's the build done. I'm really proud of this build. It's one of the best things I've ever done. And yeah, the whole queue area and the way the coaster sits in the station, the detailing and the backstaging, I'm really happy with how this looks. And I hope you like this video too. Please subscribe if you like this. There's going to be more in this series. And now we're going to take a look at a few cinematics from the coaster in the light and the dark.